When Noah showed up at my door with flowers after 3 silent months, my heart nearly gave in. I froze the second I opened the door. There he was, standing on my porch in a dark denim jacket, holding a small bouquet of white lilies like the last 3 months had never happened. Rain clouds hung low over our quiet Chicago neighborhood, and the cold wind pushed fallen leaves across the driveway. But all I could focus on was Noah, the man who had disappeared from my life without explanation, the man I still hadn't stopped loving. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Noah looked tired. Not physically tired, emotionally tired. His eyes held that same softness I used to fall asleep beside, but now there was guilt mixed into it. "Hey, Emma," he said quietly. My throat tightened hearing my name and his voice again. 3 months. 3 months since his last text. 3 months since he walked out of my apartment after saying, "I just need some time to think," and then nothing. No calls, no answers, just silence. I should have slammed the door. I should have protected myself. But heartbreak doesn't work like that. Love doesn't disappear just because someone hurts you. I looked down at the flowers. Lilies. A faint smile touched his lips. Your favorite. That almost broke me, because he remembered. Even after everything, he remembered. I crossed my arms tightly to stop myself from shaking. What are you doing here? Noah let out a slow breath. Can we talk? Simple words, dangerous words. Part of me wanted to scream at him for leaving me confused and alone. Another part wanted to pull him inside and pretend none of this ever happened. Before I could answer, Mrs. Harper from next door stepped outside holding a grocery bag. Perfect timing. She glanced between us immediately, her sharp eyes catching the tension. "Oh," she said slowly. "You're back." Noah gave her a polite nod. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Harper." She didn't smile. That felt strange right away because Mrs. Harper smiled at everyone. Retired schoolteacher, 70 years old, kind but observant. The type of neighbor who notices everything on the street before anyone else does. She looked at me carefully, then at Noah, then back at me again. Something about her expression changed. Concern. "Emma." "Sweetheart," she said softly. "Can I speak to you for a second?" Noah shifted awkwardly on the porch. "I can wait." Mrs. Harper walked closer until she stood beside me near the doorway. Her voice dropped low enough that only I could hear. "You don't know the truth," she whispered. My stomach tightened instantly. I frowned. "What?" She glanced toward Noah again before looking back at me with serious eyes. "There are things you should know before you let him back into your life." My heart began pounding. Hard. Noah's expression changed immediately. Fear, not anger, fear, Mrs. Harper, he said carefully. "Please don't." The way he said it made the air feel heavier. I stared at him. "Don't what?" Nobody answered. Rain started falling lightly around us, tiny drops tapping against the porch railing. The silence between the three of us suddenly felt unbearable. "Noah?" I asked again. He rubbed the back of his neck nervously. "Emma, it's complicated," I laughed bitterly. "You disappeared for 3 months. I think we passed complicated a while ago." The pain in his face was immediate. "I know I hurt you," he admitted quietly. "Then why?" I snapped. His grip tightened slightly around the flowers. "Because I thought leaving was the only way to protect you." "Protect me?" The words made no sense. Mrs. Harper sighed softly beside me. "Emma, dear, maybe you should invite him inside before the neighbors start watching, too." Late Mrs. Collins across the street was already pretending to water dead plants while staring at us openly. I stepped aside reluctantly. "Fine. 5 minutes." Noah walked inside carefully like he wasn't sure he belonged there anymore. Honestly, he didn't. Not after the way he left. The apartment smelled like vanilla candles and coffee. Familiar. Safe. A place Noah used to call home before everything changed. He stood awkwardly near the kitchen counter while I stayed across the room with my arms folded. The flowers remained between us like some fragile peace offering. Mrs. Harper closed the door behind her and placed her grocery bag down. You both need to sit, she said firmly. I blinked in surprise. Wait, why are you staying? Because if Noah won't tell the truth properly, I will. Noah shut his eyes briefly. Please. The tension in the room became almost unbearable. I looked back and forth between them, confusion turning into anxiety. What truth? Mrs. Harper crossed her arms. 3 months ago, the night Noah left, he wasn't alone. The words hit hard. I looked sharply at Noah. His face went pale. My chest tightened painfully. There was someone else? No, he said immediately. It's not like that. But his hesitation had already wounded me. Mrs. Harper's voice softened slightly. Emma, I saw him that night. Outside your building. I swallowed hard. He was arguing with a man. Now I was confused again. What man? Noah looked down at the floor. Mrs. Harper continued carefully. The man grabbed Noah by his jacket. They were shouting. Then Noah left with him. I stared at Noah in disbelief. What is she talking about? Noah's jaw tightened. Nothing. Dangerous, he said quickly. Then explain it. He didn't. That. Silence scared me more than shouting would have. Rain hit the windows harder now while the apartment suddenly felt too small for all the unanswered questions sitting inside it. Noah? I whispered softer this time. What happened? He looked up at me finally, and the sadness in his eyes nearly shattered me. I wanted to tell you, he admitted quietly. So many times. Then why didn't you? Because once you know, everything changes. The room fell silent again. I remembered all the nights I cried over him. All the times I replayed our last conversation in my head, searching for clues. I blamed myself for weeks. Thought maybe I loved him too much. Maybe not enough. And now suddenly there was some hidden truth waiting behind all of it. Mrs. Harper looked at Noah firmly. She deserves honesty. He nodded slowly. Then he looked directly at me. And for the first time since he arrived, I saw tears forming in his eyes, not guilt, fear, real fear. I never stopped loving you. Emma, he whispered. That confession hit me hard because part of me still loved him too. Maybe that was the problem. Because deep down, I already knew whatever came next was going to change everything between us forever. I never stopped loving you, Emma. Noah's voice barely rose above the sound of rain hitting the apartment windows, but the words landed heavily in my chest. For a second I forgot how angry I was. Then I remembered the silence, the unanswered calls, the nights I sat awake wondering what I did wrong. Love didn't erase that pain. I looked at him carefully. Then why did you leave? Noah opened his mouth, but nothing came out immediately. His hands tightened around the flowers he still hadn't put down. Mrs. Harper stood quietly near the kitchen, watching both of us with worried eyes. Finally, Noah spoke. The man Mrs. Harper saw that night? He swallowed hard. He's my brother, I frowned. You told me you didn't have family nearby. I don't, he replied softly. Not anymore. Confusion mixed with frustration inside me. Noah, stop speaking in riddles. He nodded slowly, like he knew he deserved that. My brother Tyler showed up unexpectedly 3 months ago, he explained. I hadn't seen him in almost 4 years. And? Noah looked down at the floor. He owed money to dangerous people. The room suddenly felt colder. Mrs. Harper crossed her arms tightly but stayed silent. He got involved with the wrong crowd after our dad died, Noah continued quietly. Gambling, debt, bad decisions. I spent years trying to help him, but eventually I walked away. I stared at him, trying to connect everything. That night, Noah said, he found me here. My stomach tightened. He wanted money? Noah nodded once. A lot of it. And you didn't have it. I had some savings, he admitted. But not enough. The rain outside grew heavier while my mind raced. So you left me because of your brother? It wasn't that simple. Then explain it simply, I snapped. Pain flashed across his face. He threatened you. The words hit the room like broken glass. I froze. What? Noah finally looked directly at me. His eyes were filled with guilt. He was desperate, Emma, angry. He said if I didn't help him, he'd start showing up here. Around you. Fear crept slowly into my chest. I didn't know what he was capable of anymore, Noah admitted. and I couldn't risk you getting dragged into it. I stared at him in disbelief. So your solution was to disappear? I thought distance would protect you. You could have told me. I wanted to, he said quickly. But every time I imagined the fear on your face, I couldn't do it. Mrs. Harper sighed softly. He looked terrified that night. I glanced at her. I watched them arguing outside for almost 20 minutes, she explained. Your Noah kept telling the man to stay away from this building. Your Noah. The words hurt more than they should have. Because despite everything, part of me still thought of him that way too. I looked back at Noah. So where did you go? He rubbed his tired eyes. I stayed with a friend outside the city. Worked extra shifts. Tried to help Tyler quietly so he'd disappear again. And did he? Noah nodded slowly. 2 weeks ago. The apartment fell silent except for the storm outside. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt emotionally exhausted. You let me believe you stopped loving me, I whispered. Noah's face crumpled instantly. Never. Then why didn't you answer my calls? Because hearing your voice made me want to come back. That answer nearly broke me. He stepped closer carefully, like approaching someone already wounded. Emma, I know I handled everything wrong. You think? A weak, sad smile touched his lips for half a second before disappearing. I was scared, he admitted. That honesty softened something inside me, not enough to erase the hurt, but enough to understand it. Mrs. Harper quietly picked up her grocery bag. I think you two need privacy. Before leaving, she paused beside me and squeezed my arm gently. He came back, she whispered. That matters. Then she walked out, closing the door behind her. The apartment suddenly felt very quiet. Noah and I stood facing each other across the living room that once held movie nights, lazy Sundays, and plans for a future that suddenly felt uncertain. I looked at the flowers still in his hands. You kept holding those this whole time? He glanced down and gave a nervous laugh. Honestly, I forgot. Despite everything, a small smile escaped me. And somehow that tiny moment hurt even more, because it reminded me how easy we used to be together. Noah slowly placed the flowers on the kitchen counter. I don't expect forgiveness right away, he said carefully. I just needed you to know the truth. I folded my arms tightly again, trying to hold myself together. For 3 months, I thought you stopped loving me. I know. I blamed myself. His eyes closed briefly in pain. I'm sorry. The sincerity in his voice was impossible to ignore. I walked toward the window and stared out at the rain-covered street below. Everything felt messy, complicated, emotional. Part of me wanted to tell him to leave. Another part wanted to turn around and hold him. Love can make people feel two opposite things at the same time. That night, I said quietly, still facing the window. When you walked away, did you think you were never coming back? Noah stayed silent for a moment. Yes, he admitted finally. Because I thought hating me would be safer for you than loving me. Tears filled my eyes instantly. That was the tragedy of it all. He had tried to protect me by breaking my heart. I turned around slowly. You don't get to make those choices for me. I know that now. His voice was soft, honest, tired. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then Noah reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out something small. A silver key, my spare apartment key. He held it carefully in his palm. I kept this the entire time. My chest tightened again. I almost returned it 100 times, he admitted. But every time I tried, I couldn't let go completely. The tears finally slipped down my cheeks. Not because everything was fixed. It wasn't. Trust doesn't heal in one conversation. But standing there, looking at the man I still loved, I realized something important. The truth Mrs. Harper warned me about wasn't another woman. It was how deeply fear can damage people who love each other. And sometimes, the hardest thing isn't falling in love. It's finding your way back after the silence nearly destroys everything.